Welcome to Outside the Box, a short conversation about how food service is changing at scale, what operators are facing, what systems are under pressure, and what becomes essential as expectations rise. Today, we're talking about what it takes to keep a restaurant alive for 30 years, and not the version that just sounds good in a press release. Michael King opened the original Monell's in Nashville back in 1995. 3 decades later and several locations later, he's building one of the most enduring family-style restaurants in the South. And he's seen pretty much everything a restaurant can survive. Michael, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
What was involved, opening a restaurant in 1995? Was it easier or harder than people assume?
I don't know if it was easier or harder. I know for me, I was unemployed, no savings account. I had 5 gold credit cards, and it was a determination that I was just going to work for myself. I had always been a dedicated employee I was at a major hotel establishment here in Nashville, and then I ran a vegetarian restaurant and did so well that they fired me. I had nothing more to offer, and I thought, why didn't I hire me? So I did.
And you placed a bet on family style Southern food. Like, what was it that drew you to that and not a different, type of format?
Sure. So I was performing as a singer-dancer at Opryland Theme Park when we had it here. And good friends, Sugar and Sugar, the Brantleys, would take me to a place called Duncan's in Gallatin, Tennessee. And it was a African-American couple that had a house, a pink house, I'll never forget it. And you sat at long tables, and they brought out the best skillet fried chicken and fruit tea. And I just was enamored by Southern food. I just loved the texture of it all. And being the youngest of 8, our food and part Italian, part Irish, your community was your table, right? Especially Sunday. Yep. Go to your aunts and uncles and Mene and Pepe's. I mean, it was just, that's what you did. And I just knew that Nashville needed that we never had it other than Mary Bobo's, right, which is down in Lynchburg. So that's what motivated me. And I thought, well, Yankee and Southern kitchen, why not?
Well, and then, and then we get to the years of COVID and, the disruptions in supply chain and how you operate. Was there anything, with the way that you treat your menus and things like that, that was, challenging during that time?
Well, I did not open for 9 months. I refused to open. And other people were opening early. And I did a big op-ed in our Nashville scene going, the people that are open early are going to be closed, and shooting it was. It was profit over their personnel, and I refused. No one could tell me that my employees were going to be safe. If you start to make money, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because it takes a long time of integrity and continuity and security to make that money later on. There was that saying that the customer's always right. Well, that's wrong. Yeah. They said that back in the days. That's fine. That's when customers expected. Now there's an entitlement that's very, very difficult. And I stand up for my employees. I am not going to have customers coming in being rude to them, or the money is not worth it for the reputation of my employees. And I think nowadays, I think if people say, what's your most challenging is you need to stand firm on your beliefs and firm that if you treat everyone equally, like we don't take reservations. I didn't take it for Oprah Winfrey. I didn't take it for Alan Jackson. All these. You have to be consistent, and you treat people right across the board. And I think they show up by giving their loyalty to you, and loyalty is very, very important. So our logo, or what we say, is enter as strangers and leave as friends. And I think people nowadays are looking more for a little more experience. You don't have to be. They don't look for a lot of servers to talk and entertain them. They just want to feel welcomed and recognized. And I think one of the biggest problems that people do is not recognize the people that come weekly, monthly, that support that people don't recognize. I really work hard, and our employees do that also, because that loyalty is more important to me than getting a new face and not seeing them again.
Yeah. Well, thinking about that concept, and maybe this is one of these examples, but, running several locations versus, you guys focusing on 1 or 2 locations, like, what is a lesson learned from, being laser focused on this one very specific thing at a couple of small locations?
So I had 7 at one time, 3 sit downs and 4 takeouts. I thought,
Okay.
well,
Okay.
yeah. And I was looking at the takeouts to do franchise cross country.
Mm-hmm.
You have great ambitions when you have the energy to do it. What I realized, sometimes bigger is not better. I don't have to be everything to
Yep.
everybody. I
Right.
do fried chicken phenomenal. We do 18 tons
Yep.
of chicken a month. I do
Wow.
corn pudding phenomenal. I am not
Yeah.
going to attempt to do Italian food. That's not my forte, even though I'm Italian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
items that I do, I always tell the employees and the chefs, you do the best you can. That chicken better be spot on all the time, because that's what we're known for.
Yep.
That corn pudding, that squash casserole, the fried pork chops better be spot on, because that's what we do.
Yep.
So if people were to ask me, I always say, you can have 5 items and make it the best 5 items, and you will be successful.
Thinking to, the longevity of your restaurants, a lot of your peers back in, the mid 90s aren't around anymore. Like, what's the reason, that you've been able to sustain for so long?
I think integrity.
Yeah.
I think honesty. I think consistency. We create on a daily basis a safe haven, right? I think food is a great common denominator for people. It doesn't matter your faith or your political
Yep.
desires or whatever. If you don't pass the food to your left, you're not eating. The
Yeah.
perfect example was 9/11. Oh my gosh. After 9/11, we had 7 months of intense sales.
Wow.
7 months of just 250, 300 for lunch at a 72-seat restaurant, right?
Wow.
Dinner time was 200 and 300. When we
Yeah.
did that Thanksgiving Day, that time we did 860. It was a 5-hour wait. But what taught me and that's when I knew I met that emotional, spiritual
Right.
goal.
Yeah.
Because I saw that in a time of trouble, we were a safe haven for people that needed to
Yep.
feel that they belong. And I think the reward that you see now is the reward of being consistent with them and being loyal to the customers.
And I hear you're opening a new restaurant.
We are, in fact.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, it's kind of exciting. It's Monell's on the Cumberland, and then we're attached to that. We're doing 3 micro restaurants. They are 1,300 square feet.
Okay.
One is called Sarah Sue, which is like foot-long hot dogs and New England fish and chips and that kind of stuff. Middle one is going to be a little bakery, and then we also own bbq's in Cookeville, which is about an hour and a half. So I'm bringing that in, and that one's going to be interesting because that's where I'm using the APEC situation, where, again, some of you folks know that the food lockers. I created the Barbecue Express around the locker system, believe it or not, because I just felt we don't have a lot of parking available where we're at. I know barbecue, a lot of people just want to get it and go.
And go home. Yeah.
Just it's a simple throw it in the car and your beer is at the house. And so I talked with APEC probably 2 years ago, and it always stayed in my mind because I love the ease of it. And this is not to blow sunshine up anyone's skirt or anything, but I came back to it, kept on going. This is where the future's going as far as takeout's concerned. So we are using that. I think it's a 15-drawer door, and we're excited because we've built a little restaurant all around that. We probably open in September, end of September. It's really, really neat.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, understanding, your understanding of the brand, the offerings, the clientele, then that this type of technology solution will work well for it. And it's all that planning ahead for it is what makes things like that successful. It's part of the strategy. It's, to your point, it's not, I'm going to do this 2 years later. It's part of what you're doing and thinking through all those different, service channels to be able to accommodate that. Because again, like Some days they may want to grab that and go sit by the water. The other day they want to grab and go home. There's a lot of options that you're giving them in a really convenient way there.
Sure. Well, and when I met you there at the show, you know, at one time we were looking at just the 8 doors. And then when I saw the wall with 15, I said, you know, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that's why it was worth me spending a little bit more money to have it, because I think another thing that is really bad is if you offer something and you can't deliver it, why the hell are you offering it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So do not offer something that you can't deliver. And I am not going to, I'd rather spend a little bit more money and have excess than having only 4 drawers or 5 drawers and people were waiting for them to pick up. People are waiting to. So that's kind of my philosophy also. Well, and I think one of the things for your listeners also, whether they've been in the restaurant and stuff, when we get going on 30 years, you get burnt out. I think the most important thing, and I'll say it for the older folks that are wondering, do I sell, do I give it up, or whatever, is you have an obligation. If you've created something, you have an obligation, I feel, to continue. And what I mean by that is it's time to find other people who are going to replace you. You don't wait until you have a heart attack. You don't wait till you start developing people now. They're not going to run it your way. They don't have your personality. But if you truly have worked 30 or 40 years on a business, why not take that extra step to make it longevity, right? Another 40 years.
What is something about your job that most people don't see?
Oh my goodness. I make it look easy.
Okay. Yeah.
They, you know, they don't understand that when you say hi to me at the front door, right? And I'm greeting you, I'm also thinking of, is the food coming out in the kitchen? We've got a problem with the ice machine. The dishwasher didn't show up. The table's not cleared. I got an attitude with one of the servers. The credit card processing is taking too slow, and I have 2 people on hold. Good to have you. They don't see, because they are not supposed to see it. I make it look easy. And that's what I've always done, because you know what? They're not paying to know what's happening in the background. They're paying to sit at your place and have food that you have said you're good at and people have recommended. Because the worst thing a person can do is embarrass the person that recommended the guest to come to your place. Meaning, I'm excited, and then you go and have a horrible meal. Well, that person that recommended was like, oh my God, they're embarrassed, right? So when people say what, there is so much going on in the background. And when you come into a busy place and you look at, and maybe that cashier is not up to par or smiling, or you feel short, you just look around because you are the only person in your world, but you're one of 100 that is around that person. So I always laugh because people have no clue on what it takes to get that basket of fried chicken to your table.
No, I completely understand, and really, you know, thank you and appreciate you sharing all the things that kind of go behind the scenes that people don't see. You know, 30 years is a long time to keep getting it right. You know, it's a great look at what it takes. And thank everyone for watching. Keep an eye out for more episodes. They're coming soon. I'm Ashley McNamara. Thanks for joining us on Outside the Box.